What has crab, pomegranate, and can be made in 15 minutes? Let's find out. So the answer to that question is Crackin Crab Bricks. I know, it's weird. Listen, as you guys know, guys, in Tommy vs. Time, we are trying to do recipes in 15 minutes or less, depending on the book that we use. In this case, again, Jamie Oliver's 15-Minute Meals. And here, I promise you, is the recipe in all its glory. We'll walk through it in a second. But yes, he called it Cracking Crab Bricks. They look really interesting. We're gonna use some Phyllo pastry, we're gonna use some fennel, we're gonna use some pomegranate, some ingredients I wouldn't think of to put together. But honestly, guys, I'm excited to try it. I love crab, and I don't know, Phyllo pastry is delicious, so yeah. So that being said, guys, I think there's a good chance that we can do this in the 15 minutes, although I do not use Phyllo pastry. I'm gonna say Phyllo pastry. I don't use that ever. So that's gonna be something I'm a little bit concerned about. That's gonna be a hurdle we're gonna have to get over. But overall, I think we can do this. All right, guys, so if you're enjoying any of the videos, please feel free to hit that like or subscribe or hit that hit the little dinner bell down there, because that way you'll know when I'm making dinner and you guys can come and check out the next video. So guys, speaking of other videos, please feel free to go check some of the other ones out on the channel. As you know, I do a variety of different things here, but we've definitely got 8 episodes that you could see of Tommy vs. Time and some cooking at home videos as well. They're a lot of fun. Some of the recipes are pretty simple and pretty straightforward and accessible. And really in this one, guys, as you know, we're trying to check out to see if we can actually do these recipes in the allotted time. Now, if you're wondering how we're gonna measure all this, guys, well, of course, I'm gonna hit a timer. We're gonna measure out the time, but we're also gonna measure on a few other factors. The first factor is going to be taste. Basically, was this a good meal in my opinion? Did it taste good? Was there something lacking? Not enough acid, not enough salt? Who knows? I'll be the judge, but it's subjective, guys. Don't worry about it too much. Just generally thinking about whether the taste is good or not. So the second thing we'll be looking at is cost. How much does the meal cost per plate? So I'll be doing all that work based on the grocery bill and what it costs, weighing it out, all those things that you don't see on camera. I do that for you so you guys have an idea of what this actually costs on a per plate basis. Finally, guys, we look at ease of use. Basically, how hard was this to actually make? I'm not a pro chef, I'm a home cook, so the idea is to just figure out, can we make this thing, like, is it repeatable? Is it easy? Do I need special equipment, special techniques? I don't know, I don't have all the things, so you probably don't either, and that's the point. So with all that being said, guys, let's go through the ingredients. Oh, and before that, B-roll.
Perfect.
Alright, so with that beautiful B-roll out of the way, let's get on to the ingredients. Now, of course, guys, we're going to walk you through each individual ingredient, followed by, of course, the prep. So, well, you know, if we're going to make some crab bricks, we're going to need some crab. Specifically, you're going to need 400 grams of crab meat. Now, this is a kind of mix here in a can. If you can find fresh, go for it, but can is just a lot easier and a lot cheaper. To the bricks, you're going to want to add some green onion here. I got 2 of them. You're just going to chop these up nice and fine and add these to our mix, and that's going to go along with some beautiful cilantro. You're going to need just 1 bunch here. To that, we're going to need 2 lemons. Now, the recipe does call for preserved lemons. I can't seem to find any, so we're going to use the zest and the juice of this lemon. For some heat, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of harissa, which can go very well with our crab, and we're going to wrap that all in some phyllo pastry. Now, guys, with this stuff, I mean, we need 4 sheets, but it's pretty delicate, so you're going to make sure you got to let it thaw and then work with it quite quickly and quite efficiently. So that's it for the ingredients we'll need for the crab bricks. It's time to move to the salad. So to begin, you're going to want to grab yourself a half a teaspoon of fennel seeds. Now, the recipe does call for caraway seeds, but unfortunately, I was unable to find any. Now, the base of our salad is going to be some couscous. Do not confuse this with quinoa. You're just going to need 1 cup of couscous. Any couscous will do. To that, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of sun-dried tomato paste. And of course, we'll need also some grated fennel. We're going to use about a half of a bulb here, but depends on the size of the bulb. Just use as much or as little as you want, but a half bulb should do. To add some brightness to this dish, we're going to add the acid from 1 lemon and its juice. That will pair nicely with our pomegranate, which is sweet and tart. And guys, if you can find one of these already de-seeded, that will save you a bunch of time. With that done, let's move to the salsa. So for the salsa, guys, it's really simple. It only has 3 ingredients. The first one is a tomato, just a fresh tomato that you can find. To that, you're going to add about 10 to 20 grams of ginger. Now, as you can see, this is frozen. That is just to make it easier to grate. And finally, you're going to add yourself about a half of a lemon, just the juice. You can add the zest if you want to, but that might be a bit too overpowering. Finally, on the side, you're going to want to have yourself a bit of yogurt. Here I use about a half a cup of fat-free yogurt, but you can pick what you like. So with our ingredients covered, it's time to take a very deep breath, sigh, and then hit that timer, start it up, and get going. So to begin, we're going to grab our can of crab meat, open it up with our can opener, and of course, delicately open that lid without cutting ourselves to reveal the inside. Now, guys, this does have some liquid. You're going to want to get rid of that, as well as a little paper sort of towel thing to keep it moist. So don't be afraid to squeeze this. Don't squeeze too hard, but just get some of that excess liquid out, because we want to make sure that our filling is dry when we put it inside the phyllo dough. So we're going to do the same with our second can. Just repeat the process, guys. Drain it and make sure that you get as much of that liquid out as possible. Again, don't squeeze too hard here. Just let it kind of drain on its own. After gently squeezing the crab meat for a few seconds, you'll see all this excess liquid come out, guys. Again, it's very important to get this out. We want to make sure that everything is nice and dry before we wrap it all up in our crab bricks. So with the crab dried, we're going to transfer this to a large bowl, and you should have something that looks a little bit like this, kind of separated, flaky, and dried up. So to that, we're going to add the zest of 1 whole lemon, guys. This is going to add a ton of flavor, a nice little bit of brightness, and it stays dry, unlike the juice from the lemon. Now to that, we're going to add our green onion, which we're going to chop finely, guys. You want to chop it finely because you want to have good consistency. So you should have something that looks a little bit like this. And again, you could use a little bit more or less green onion if you want, but basically 2 or 3 green onions is all you'll need. Now you just gotta artfully sprinkle this into your bowl, and then you should have something that looks like this. So this is as good a time as any to season our mixture, so go ahead and hit that with a couple pinches of salt, as well as a couple spins on the old pepper mill. With that done, it is time to add our harissa. Now guys, this has a ton of flavor and goes extremely well with this mixture, so definitely don't be shy to add a bit more if you like. But basically add your teaspoon or 2 in there and then give this a quick mix. So as you gently mix in the harissa, just break up any clumps and make sure that you have a nice dry, flaky mixture. So with that done, it's time to move on to the phyllo dough. So you're going to want to carefully place your phyllo dough onto your work surface before adding about 100 grams of your crab mix. This means you should have about 100 grams per phyllo sheet. So with the mixture centered in your wonderful sheet of phyllo dough, you're going to want to make this look like a little deck of cards, meaning you're going to want to put this into a rectangular shape that is about a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch thick. Once you've done that, you're going to want to grab the edges and begin to fold this gently. So there's no real technique here, guys. You just kind of take a side, fold it, crimp it down, make sure it's in place, and then keep folding until you have a nice, wonderful little parcel of delicious crab meat. So here you can see there's not really a technique, but just kind of make it nice and even. So as you approach the last fold, just be careful not to rip anything. It's, again, fairly delicate, so by the end you should have something that looks a little bit like this. Now this is my first one. It looks okay and should cook up rather nicely. So of course we got 3 more of these to do, so we're going to repeat the process and speed it up a bit so you guys can kind of get the gist of it. But basically, make a small little deck of cards in the middle of your phyllo sheet and just do your best to fold it over while pushing the edges in, and then just keep folding until you have a nice little package that you can kind of, well, cook up nice and quickly in the oil. Again, it should look something like this. So for anyone that's not comfortable with using phyllo dough like me, guys, just go slow, take your time, and really try to put this thing together. At the end of the day, a couple tears here and there won't be the end of the world, but ultimately, you should have something that looks like this, and you should have a plate of wonderful crab bricks that looks like this. And I don't know, I think that's pretty good for a first attempt. What do you think? Anyways, with that done, it's time to move on over to our couscous salad. So grab yourself another bowl, put in your 2 cups of couscous, and then of course you're going to add in 2 cups of water. It is a 1-to-1 ratio here for this couscous, guys. Again, just make sure you read your instructions, but that's usually how it is. And to that, we're going to add our wonderful sun-dried paste. Okay, so this is going to go in directly. It's a little weird, but it will absorb and give some flavor. So with that mixed, you're then going to add some seasoning, and of course that means just a bit of salt just to add a bit more flavor here, and let this sit off to the side for about 5 minutes. With the couscous resting, it is time to attack our fennel, and of course we're going to grab that bulb, cut that bad boy in half, and save some fronds for later, just for decoration and a little bit of flavor. They do look nice and are there to enhance our presentation skills. So speaking of presentation, it's time to make our fennel look presentable, so we're going to take the top off before we hit it on our grater. Now guys, with the grater, it's a little bit tedious. Just be careful not to cut yourself or anything like that, but yeah, this takes a little bit of while, and there's going to be a lot of fennel everywhere, so just be mindful for that. So with our fennel grated, we're going to transfer this to a new bowl and just let this sit for a little while before we move back to our prep station. We're going to want to prep our mint, which we're going to want to cut very thinly here, guys. Again, you can dice this any size you want, but here I went for a bit of a thinner dice. And once you're done with that, guys, we're going to then prep our pomegranate. So pomegranate, guys, I'm sure there's a way to do this properly. I don't think I know the technique. Probably should have looked this up before I started, but this is how I cut it open. Let me know if you guys know there's a better way to kind of, I don't know, prep one of these things. This is where I probably spent a lot of my time, but as you can see, pomegranate kind of opens up nicely, but then just getting the seeds out is time consuming. So just be ready to spend some time doing this. This is why I do recommend, if you can find an already de-seeded pomegranate, please get that if you can. So after inefficiently removing all of the seeds, you're going to want to soak these in water so that the inedible parts, the little white bits, will float to the top. Now guys, with that done, it is time to move to our stovetop. So in a well-oiled skillet at medium to high heat, you're going to want to place your crab bricks down. Now, I only could put 3 in here, guys. There are 4 total, so we're going to do a little bit of editing, but basically you're going to let these cook for 3 to 4 minutes before flipping them. Now, when you're done, you should have something that looks golden, brown, and delicious, just like this. And yeah, these are extremely crisp and crunchy. So once you're done with those, you want to go back to your pan and put in your fennel seeds to toast quickly. This will only take about 20 or 30 seconds. You're just going to kind of mix them around a bit and then remove those from the heat. After you're done mixing those quickly, well, you're going to realize that something else has been moving quickly, and that is our time, which we are now out of. So we're going to put a timer on and just hit the start button and keep moving. So what we'll be moving on to is our salsa. So you can see I've quartered our tomatoes, put in about a thumb size of garlic in our blender, and of course we're going to blitz that up real quick and then add a bit of lemon. With the salsa blitz, we're going to grab a bowl and just quickly transfer this into that bowl, and then of course sprinkle this with a bit of green, and this is going to be just a little bit of mint on top to add a bit of flavor. And because we can, we're going to add a few fennel fronds on top as well, just because it looks kind of pretty. With the salsa done, it's time to move back to our salads. We're going to go check on our couscous, which is nice and fluffy, and add some of our mint, and of course we're going to add a nice healthy squeeze of lemon juice to give it some nice acidity. Now all we have to do is give this a quick mix and we're basically done. A nice light, fluffy, and flavorful couscous base for our salad, and that is done. Let's move to the next step, which is going to be plating. Now guys, I am just using our cleaned cutting board. I know I was cooking on this. I did clean it before I did all this, and we're just going to spread out our couscous as a base here, followed by a bit of our shredded fennel, which we're going to spread on top. This adds a nice, bright, fresh, and very just mild flavor to this salad. For more fennel-y goodness, we're going to add our seeds on top, and these are nice and fragrant and had a nice little bit of crunch as well. Of course, these will be pairing very well with our pomegranate, which we're going to add right here. Now, guys, this looks really nice. I always find pomegranate looks like these little jewels, and they're beautiful, and they add a really nice sweet flavor to our salad. Now, it wouldn't be much of a cooking channel if we didn't artfully sprinkle our herbs off camera like so before adding our crab bricks. Now, these did stay fairly crisp, guys, but the bottom sides got a little soggy, so I do recommend you move quickly when you make this meal. With our perfect parcels of crab placed down, we're going to then try to artfully put some yogurt down, and yeah, but presentation skills are something I'm still working on, but we made an attempt. And then we're going to less artfully attempt to put our bowl of salsa down, just like so, nice and easy, and there we go, guys. So there you go, guys. There is Jamie Oliver's Crackin Crab Bricks from his book 15-Minute Meals. It comes with his awesome salad with pomegranate and fennel, and obviously the crab bricks themselves are quite something. Now we tried to make this look a little bit prettier on an actual plate, so I hope you guys like this presentation a bit different, followed by, of course, the slow-mo. The one thing that will not be slow is how quickly I am going to eat these. I'm hungry, and honestly, if you can smell this and just listen. They're crunchy, and just look at this cross section. You have this wonderful crab, harissa, the green onion, the lemon, it all goes so well together. So as you watch me gorge myself on a well-deserved meal, we're going to quickly talk about some of the metrics. Now guys, the one I want to jump into specifically is cost. Typically speaking, we round around the $5 mark on a per plate cost. Now, again, we're using crab, some phyllo, and some other things that you could reuse, obviously, but crab was quite expensive, and unfortunately, even though I got it in a can, yeah, there was no way getting around this. This actually cost us $7.09 per plate, so that is quite high. We typically fall around the $4 or $5 mark, so unfortunately, that means I'm gonna have to give this a 5 out of 10. I debated on a 4 out of 10. I do think for what it is, it would have been nice to have had a few extra portions perhaps, but this really only does make 4. However, that being said, they are rather filling and they're very kind of interesting and tasty. So just keep that in mind if you do attempt to make this dish, that it will run you a little bit more than you might expect. All right, guys, so there you go. There are our cracking crab bricks. I mean, not the most appetizing sounding thing, but I will say these taste pretty good. That being said, I don't understand why there's a tomato, ginger, and lemon salsa. It's not required. I think you could have just gone with the yogurt and just been fine. That's my opinion. Let me know if you guys make this recipe, what you guys think, because quite frankly, just the crab and just everything in it, the harissa, the kind of crunchiness of the phyllo pastry, really just amazing texture, really tasty, a little bit of heat, so I really like that. Since we're on the topic of taste, the salad itself, guys, is kind of a nice couscous salad with some fennel and some pomegranate, just a lot of herbs and some lemon. It's quite good, it's quite fresh. Nothing crazy to write home about, but it is tasty. So overall, guys, I'm gonna have to give this a 7 out of 10 on taste. Honestly, everything was really good, but since we have multiple components, again, I just don't understand why that tomato salsa is there. Everything else, you remove that, this would be a 9 out of 10, but we have that as a component, and like I said, I just don't understand it. It doesn't really, it's not cohesive with the dish. So, like I said, if you're looking to save a bit of time, I would remove it. So for easy use, guys, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give this a 5 out of 10, in part because the phyllo pastry is not something I work with a lot. It took me a little while to get it kind of going together, and it really does affect your time when you're not used to ingredients. Other than that, I would also say that having to de-seed a pomegranate took a lot of time. So definitely a way to cut down on the time here, guys, is just buy some already kind of de-seeded little pomegranate seeds that you can get. I've seen them around. I couldn't find any when I went, so I had to do it kind of, as you saw, by hand. It's messy, and I'm sure there's a way to do it better, but yeah, find a quicker way to do it. As you saw, the time was obviously quite long, and speaking of time, guys, that's a fail. The fail is pretty hard. We were almost 10 and a half minutes over the time, so this was almost a 30-minute meal, not a 15-minute meal. So let me know if you guys try this, guys, and see how you do and how it turned out. The other thing I will say, speaking of timing, is definitely you want to time it so that the second that those bricks are off of the oven, or off of the stove, I should say, you gotta eat them, because phyllo kind of starts to get soft and soggy. Mine was okay, but really it was only off the heat for a few minutes. So I think the second those come off the heat, you just gotta dive in. So just something to keep in mind. All right, guys, so there you go. There's Jamie Oliver's Crackin Crab Bricks. They're really tasty. I mean, again, I don't get the tomato sauce. I keep harping on this, but the bricks themselves, the crab bricks themselves, are excellent. I really do like them. I could see myself using those again, especially if I get a little bit better at using phyllo dough. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We'll see you next time.